From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
From the shocking assassination of President John F. Kennedy to the brutal bombing of an Italian judge and political figure, we take you on a journey through the underbelly of power and corruption. In this video, we delve into the dark world of politics and organized crime, shedding light on the connections between politicians, mafias, and their shocking murders. Prepare to be shocked and amazed as we uncover the shocking truth behind the murders of 9 politicians by mafias, all caught on camera. John F. Kennedy.
President Kennedy and Governor John Connally have been cut down by assassins' bullets in downtown Dallas.
In the annals of American history, few events have captured the nation's attention and fueled conspiracy theories like the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. On that fateful day, November 22, 1963, President Kennedy was riding in a motorcade through the streets of Dallas, Texas, when tragedy struck. Shots rang out, and within seconds, the president's life was cut short. The official narrative points to Lee Harvey Oswald as the lone gunman, but newly released documents from the JFK files shed light on a different story. These documents reveal a startling connection between John F. Kennedy, Frank Sinatra, and several Chicago mob bosses. According to reports, Sinatra's connection to President John F. Kennedy went beyond their shared love for entertainment and glamour. In the 1960 presidential campaign, Sinatra actively supported Kennedy, going as far as releasing a new version of his hit song High Hopes with lyrics that praised Kennedy's candidacy. Sinatra worked the phones, raised campaign funds, and secured the support of the Mafia, particularly Sam Giancana, the unstable boss of the Chicago outfit. The Mafia's support was crucial for Kennedy's election, as they controlled the unions, whose members tended to vote as a bloc. In return for their help, the mob believed that the new administration would turn a blind eye to their illegal activities. However, once Kennedy became president, the relationship between Sinatra and the Kennedys began to deteriorate. Kennedy's appointment of his brother Bobby Kennedy as Attorney General proved to be a turning point. Bobby Kennedy made it his mission to bring down organized crime, shattering the informal agreement that the Mafia believed they had brokered with the new administration. Sinatra, who had once thought himself a gangster for life, suddenly found himself on the wrong side of the law. Sinatra's transformation from a close friend of the Kennedys to a political opponent was a clear indication of the deep-seated resentment and insecurity he harbored. The relationship between Sinatra and the Kennedys reached its breaking point in 1962 when President Kennedy canceled a scheduled visit to Sinatra's mansion in California. This visit, for which Sinatra had spent considerable time and money preparing, was seen as a snub and a public humiliation. The cancellation, coupled with the increasing scrutiny from the FBI under J. Edgar Hoover, marked a turning point in Sinatra's life and career. It is believed that President Kennedy was assassinated by the Chicago outfit after seeing that the current administration was against them. The assassination of President Kennedy sent shockwaves through the nation, leaving a void in leadership and a legacy of unanswered questions. The official investigation, led by the Warren Commission, concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone in the assassination. However, the newly released documents from the JFK files raise doubts and open up new avenues of inquiry. The involvement of Chicago mob bosses and their connections to Cuban militiamen add a layer of complexity to the story. It suggests a web of intrigue and conspiracy that goes beyond a lone gunman. The Chicago outfit's interest in protecting their gambling empire and their ties to Richard Kane, a man with connections to both organized crime and the CIA, raise questions about the true motives behind the assassination. These events underscore the dark underbelly of power and the lengths to which individuals and organizations will go to protect their interests. Donald McKay. In the picturesque town of Griffith, nestled in the heart of New South Wales, a man named Donald McKay would rise to prominence, becoming a beacon of hope in the fight against the insidious grip of organized crime. Born in the 1940s, McKay grew up in a close-knit community where hard work and integrity were valued above all else. In the 1970s, Griffith had become a hotbed for drug trafficking, with the Calabrian Mafia, also known as the 'Ndrangheta, establishing a stronghold in the region. With his charismatic personality and unwavering commitment to justice, McKay quickly gained support from the residents. He campaigned tirelessly, promising to expose the criminal underbelly that had taken hold of Griffith and to bring those responsible to justice. McKay particularly contended with former immigration minister Albert Alchimy Graspy, who at the time was linked to the mob who had set up a racket running the country's biggest marijuana farming operation at the time. The Mafia, known for their ruthless tactics and ability to infiltrate all levels of society, began to closely monitor McKay's every move. They saw him as a formidable formidable adversary, someone who could potentially dismantle their criminal empire. Undeterred by the threats and intimidation, McKay continued his crusade against the Mafia, determined to expose their illegal activities and protect the innocent lives caught in the crossfire. In 1975, Mr. McKay anonymously assisted in the bust of Australia's biggest cannabis farm at the time in nearby Columbally, but in later court proceedings, it's believed his name was leaked to the mob. The Mafia, realizing the gravity of the situation, decided that McKay needed to be eliminated. On the night of July 15, 1977, McKay left a local hotel after having a drink with friends. Unbeknownst to him, he was being closely watched by Mafia operatives who had been tracking his every move. The next day, police discovered blood on his van, empty .22 caliber bullet cases, and drag marks. Although a suspect, James Frederick Basley, was convicted and served jail time for conspiracy to commit murder, he died in 2018 without ever revealing what truly transpired on that night. The sad part is, Mr. McKay's body has never been found. McKay's murder, deemed the first political assassination, served as a wake-up call for the Australian government. It highlighted the need for increased protection for whistleblowers and witnesses, as well as the importance of providing support to those who risk their lives in the pursuit of justice. Giovanni Falcone. Giovanni Falcone's journey towards becoming a formidable opponent to the Sicilian Mafia began with his early life and education. Born in 1939 in Italy, Falcone was raised in a family that instilled in him a strong work ethic and a deep sense of patriotism. He pursued his passion for justice by studying law at the University of Palermo, where he excelled in his studies and developed a keen understanding of the legal system. After graduating, Falcone embarked on his career as a judge in 1964. It was during this time that he would face his greatest challenge yet, the McKay trial. This historic trial, which took place in the 1980s, aimed to dismantle the powerful grip of the Sicilian Mafia. Falcone played a crucial role in gathering evidence from the first Mafia informants, which ultimately led to the conviction of hundreds of mobsters. Falcone's innovative investigative techniques and his establishment of working relationships with colleagues from other countries were instrumental in the success of the McKay trial. His unwavering dedication to justice and his relentless pursuit of the truth made him a force to be reckoned with in the fight against organized crime. After the success of the McKay trial, Giovanni Falcone's reputation as a fearless prosecutor grew, making him an even greater threat to the Sicilian Mafia. He accepted a post in the Ministry of Justice in Rome, where he continued his fight against the Mafia. This transfer marked a turning point in his career and set the stage for the events that would ultimately lead to his tragic death. In Rome, Falcone achieved a genuine revolution in the judiciary. His dedication to justice and his unwavering commitment to combating organized crime led to significant advancements in the fight against the Mafia. However, as Falcone's efforts intensified, so did the danger he faced. The Mafia saw him as a formidable adversary, a threat to their power and influence. They were determined to silence him at any cost. On May 23, 1992, the Sicilian Mafia carried out a heinous act that would forever change the course of the fight against organized crime. Giovanni Falcone, along with his wife and 3 members of his police escort, fell victim to a devastating car bomb attack known as the Capaci bombing. The explosion, captured on camera, sent shockwaves across Italy and the world, exposing the brutal reality of the Mafia's grip on society. The hunt for Cosa Nostra boss Salvatore "Toto" Riina intensified, leading to his eventual arrest in 1993. Falcone's assassination sparked a renewed determination to fight against the Mafia. The legacy of Giovanni Falcone lives on through monuments and recognition of his contributions to the fight against organized crime. His bravery and determination continue to inspire others to stand up against injustice and fight for a more just society. Floyd Horde.
District attorney blown up in his own front yard, a statewide manhunt for the killers.
Before we dive into the chilling events that led to the murder of Floyd Horde, let's take a closer look at the man himself. Floyd Horde, born and raised in the heart of Georgia, had always possessed an unwavering passion for justice. From a young age, he dreamt of making a difference in his community, and little did he know that his journey would take him to the highest echelons of power. Determined to bring about change, he pursued a career in law, graduating with top honors from the prestigious Georgia Law School. Horde's charisma and unwavering dedication quickly caught the attention of the public, propelling him into the world of politics. In the early 2000s, he ran for the position of district attorney, promising to fight corruption and ensure justice for all. It wasn't long before Horde's magnetic personality and powerful speeches won over the hearts of the people. With his soaring popularity, he secured a landslide victory, becoming the youngest district attorney in Georgia's history. As district attorney, Horde wasted no time in implementing his vision for a fair and just legal system. He cracked down on organized crime, earning a reputation as a fearless prosecutor who would stop at nothing to bring criminals to justice. He was strongly against organized crime in Jackson County and particularly targeted the Dixie Mafia, a group of dangerous bootleggers and bandits. The Dixie Mafia, according to Mercer University history professor Doug Thompson, was so dangerous that anything that was going to take away their revenue streams were real threats to these people. Unfortunately, this was the mafia group Horde decided to take on. On August 7, 1967, Horde was on his way to court. He got into his car and immediately he turned the ignition. Close to a dozen sticks of dynamite exploded, killing him right in his front yard. The immediate aftermath of the murder was marked by grief, anger, and a renewed determination to bring the perpetrators to justice. The police launched a massive manhunt, vowing to leave no stone unturned in their pursuit of the killers. As the investigation unfolded, shocking details emerged. It became clear that Horde's murder was not a random act of violence, but a carefully orchestrated hit carried out by the Mafia. All 5 Mafia members involved in the murder were eventually sentenced to life in prison. Paulo Borsalino. Paulo Borsalino was born on January 19, 1940, in Palermo, Sicily, a city known for its rich history and vibrant culture. Growing up in a close-knit community, Borsalino witnessed firsthand the influence and power of the Sicilian Mafia, also known as Cosa Nostra. This early exposure to organized crime would shape his future and ignite a burning desire to fight against the very forces that plagued his beloved city. From a young age, Borsalino displayed a keen interest in justice and the law. After completing his education, Borsalino embarked on a career in the legal field, becoming a magistrate. It was during this time that he began to witness the devastating impact of organized crime on the people of Sicily. The Mafia's grip on the region was pervasive, infiltrating every aspect of society and corrupting the very institutions meant to uphold justice. Determined to bring about change, Borsalino dedicated himself to fighting against the Sicilian Mafia. He understood the risks involved in challenging such a powerful and dangerous organization, but his unwavering commitment to justice propelled him forward. Borsalino believed that no one should be above the law, not even the most notorious criminals. As his career progressed, Borsalino gained a reputation for his relentless pursuit of justice. The Sicilian Mafia, known for its ruthless tactics, would stop at nothing to silence those who dared to stand in their way. Despite the dangers, Borsalino remained resolute, refusing to back down in the face of adversity. Paulo Borsalino's battle against the Sicilian Mafia was marked by pivotal moments and significant cases that showcased his unwavering determination to dismantle the criminal organization. One of the most notable cases Borsalino tackled was the McKay trial, a landmark trial that took place from 1986 to 1992. This trial targeted over 400 defendants, including top mafia bosses, capos, and soldiers. Borsalino played a crucial role as one of the lead prosecutors, working tirelessly to gather evidence and build a strong case against the accused. The McKay trial was a turning point in the fight against the Mafia. It exposed the inner workings of the criminal organization, revealing its intricate web of corruption, violence, and intimidation. In addition to the McKay trial, Borsalino worked on several other high-profile cases that targeted the Mafia's illicit activities. He investigated money laundering schemes, drug trafficking operations, and extortion rackets, relentlessly pursuing those responsible and ensuring they faced the consequences of their actions. One of the most significant cases Borsalino pursued was the investigation into the Pizza Connection, an international drug trafficking network that spanned across Europe and the United States. Borsalino played a crucial role in uncovering the intricate web of connections and bringing the key players to justice. His work in this case further solidified his reputation as a formidable opponent of organized crime. On July 19, 1992, just 57 days after the Capaci bombing that murdered another anti-mafia magistrate, Giovanni Falcone, who happened to be Borsalino's friend, he also lost his life. The bombing, referred to as the Via D'Amelio bombing, killed Borsalino and 5 police officers. Dozens of mafiosi were eventually sentenced to life imprisonment for their involvement in Borsalino's murder. Atik Ahmed. In the case of Atik Ahmed, he wasn't an innocent politician caught in the crossfire. Ahmed had a long and notorious history in both politics and the Indian criminal world. His journey into the dark underbelly of society began in 1979 when he was first accused in a murder case. Over the next decade, Ahmed's influence grew, particularly in the western part of Allahabad city, where he established himself as a powerful figure. Despite his criminal activities, Ahmed managed to win elections and ascend to positions of power. In 1989, he won his first election as an an independent candidate and became a state lawmaker. This victory marked the beginning of his tumultuous political career. Ahmed's charisma and ability to manipulate the system allowed him to secure consecutive terms in office. However, behind the scenes, Ahmed's criminal empire continued to expand. Dozens of cases, including kidnapping, murder, and extortion, were registered against him over the past 2 decades. He operated with impunity, instilling fear in the hearts of those who dared to cross his path. Ahmed's notoriety reached its peak when he won a seat in the federal election as a candidate for the Samajwadi Party, SP, in 2004. This victory elevated him to the position of Member of Parliament, further solidifying his power and influence. Despite his political success, the cases against Ahmed continued to pile up. The law enforcement agencies were well aware of his criminal activities, but his ability to evade justice raised questions about the integrity of the system. In 2019, the Supreme Court ordered his transfer to a jail in Gujarat after it was revealed that he had planned attacks on a businessman from his prison cell in Uttar Pradesh. This move was meant to ensure public safety, but it only served to highlight the extent of Ahmed's criminal network. Amidst the backdrop of Atik Ahmed's controversial past, a series of tragic events unfolded, leading up to his shocking murder. Just days before the fateful incident, Ahmed's teenage son, Asad, was shot dead by the police in a separate encounter. The loss of his son had undoubtedly left Ahmed devastated and fueled his already heightened sense of paranoia. On April 15, 2023, Ahmed, accompanied by his brother Ashraf, found himself under police escort en route to a medical checkup at a hospital in Prayagraj. As Ahmed and Ashraf, both in handcuffs, made their way through the crowd, reporters bombarded them with questions. During the chaos, a group of 3 men, disguised as journalists, blended seamlessly with the crowd. And then, in a chilling turn of events, a gun was pulled out, and the deafening sound of gunfire shattered the night, forever altering the lives of those present. The shocking footage captured the horrifying moment when Ahmed and Ashraf were ruthlessly gunned down. The brazenness of the attack sent shockwaves through the nation, leaving everyone in disbelief. The 3 assailants, who had posed as journalists, quickly surrendered after the shots were fired, their true identities exposed. Rights activists and critics of the government pointed to the incident as another example of alleged extrajudicial killings and encounters carried out by the police. They accused the police of staging confrontations and executing criminals without due process, a practice that has become shockingly common in the state. Salvator Lima. Salvatore Lima, born on January 23, 1928 in Palermo, Italy, began his political journey in the 1950s. He quickly rose through the ranks of the Christian Democracy (DC) party, aligning himself with influential factions and gaining support from unexpected sources. But little did the public know about the dark connections that would come to define Lima's political career. From 1958 to 1963, Lima served as the mayor of Palermo, his birthplace. It was during this time that Palermo experienced a construction boom, transforming the city's landscape. Lima, along with his fellow Christian Democrat Vito Ciancimino, supported Mafia-allied building contractors, such as Francesco Vassallo, who had strong ties to the criminal underworld. In 1964, an investigation shed light on Lima's connections to the Mafia. He was forced to admit his association with Angelo La Barbera, one of Palermo's most powerful mobsters. It became clear that Lima's election as mayor had been supported by the La Barbera clan, further blurring the lines between politics and organized crime. Judge Cesare Terranova, one of Falcone's predecessors, played a crucial role in exposing Lima's ties to the Mafia. In a 1964 indictment, Terranova unequivocally stated that Lima had maintained relations with the La Barbera mafiosi and had been asked for favors. Despite these revelations, Lima continued his political career as if nothing had happened, shielded by the unwillingness of witnesses and prosecutors to pursue the matter further. Lima's alliance with Giulio Andreotti, a 7-time prime minister and influential figure in Italian politics, further solidified his position. In 1981, Palermo became the battleground for a bloody mafia war that would send shockwaves throughout Italy. A new dominant group within the mafia, led by Salvatore Riina of Corleone, sought to eliminate the traditional bosses of Palermo and their associates. This wave of violence targeted not only rival mobsters, but also state representatives and politicians who dared to challenge the mafia's grip on power. It was during this tumultuous period that the Maxi trial took place. The trial trial aimed to expose the inner workings of the Mafia and hold its leaders accountable for their crimes. Many of Lima's closest allies were convicted as members of the Mafia. However, Lima himself managed to avoid criminal investigation, thanks to the unwillingness of witnesses and prosecutors to pursue his involvement. The Mafia had counted on Lima and his ally, Giulio Andreotti, to protect their interests and block the confirmation of the Maxi trial's sentence. They expected Lima to use his political influence to appoint Corrado Carnevale, known as the sentence killer, to review the verdict. Carnevale had a history of overturning Mafia convictions on technicalities. However, Lima's inability or unwillingness to fulfill this task would have dire consequences. Lima's failure to deliver on his promises marked a turning point in the relationship between the Mafia and its political allies. On March 12, 1992, Salvator Lima's life came to a brutal end. As he was on his way to Palermo, his car was ambushed by a hitman on a motorcycle. Lima attempted to flee, but the hitman ruthlessly gunned him down, leaving him lifeless on the streets of Palermo. Lima's assassination sent shockwaves through Italy, coming just 3 weeks before the national election. It was a watershed moment in Italian politics, as the public realized the extent of the Mafia's influence and the dangers faced by those who dared to challenge it. Pianti Matella. Pianti Matella, born on May 24, 1935 in Castellammare del Golfo, Sicily, was destined for a life in politics. Growing up in a politically charged environment, Pianti was exposed to the inner workings of the political landscape from an early age. Pianti received a Catholic-oriented education, attending schools run by the Jesuits. It was during this time that he developed a strong sense of social justice and a deep-rooted belief in the power of politics to effect positive change. In 1960, he became a national leader of Azione Cattolica, a Catholic lay organization that promoted social and political engagement. Inspired by the progressive politics of Giorgio La Pira and national leader Aldo Moro, Pianti aligned himself with the more progressive faction within the Christian Democracy Party. His political career took off in 1967 when he was elected as a deputy to the regional parliament of Sicily. This position allowed him to gain first-hand experience in the intricacies of Sicilian politics and the challenges faced by the region. Pianti quickly established himself as a dedicated and principled politician, known for his unwavering commitment to the people of Sicily. In 1978, Pianti achieved a significant milestone in his political career when he was elected as the president of Sicily. This prestigious position gave him the platform to enact real change and tackle the deep-rooted issues that had hindered the progress of the region. As president, Pianti made it his mission to clean up the government's public contracts racket, which had long been a source of corruption and a means for the Mafia to exert its influence. However, Pianti's bold actions and unwavering commitment to fighting corruption soon made him a target. The Mafia, which had long enjoyed cozy relationships with politicians in Sicily, saw him as a threat to their illicit activities. They sought to silence him and maintain their grip on power. On January 6, 1980, tragedy struck. Pianti Matella was assassinated by the Mafia in Palermo. The shocking act of violence sent shockwaves through the nation and exposed the deep-rooted influence of the Mafia in Sicilian politics. Pianti's assassination was a stark reminder of the dangers faced by those who dared to challenge the status quo. His courageous fight against corruption and his unwavering commitment to the people of Sicily left an indelible mark on Italian politics. Jimmy Hoffa. In the bustling city of Detroit, a young man named Jimmy Hoffa was about to embark on a journey that would forever change the landscape of labor unions in America. Born on Valentine's Day in 1913 in Brazil, Indiana, Hoffa moved to Detroit with his family in 1924. Little did he know that this move would set the stage for his rise as a powerful union leader and his entanglement with organized crime. As a teenager, Hoffa began his union activism, fighting for fair wages and better working conditions for the hardworking men and women of Detroit. He quickly rose through the ranks of the Teamsters, a union representing truck drivers and warehouse operatives, and his natural leadership abilities caught the attention of those around him. By the time he was in his early 20s, Hoffa had become a force to be reckoned with. His charisma and determination propelled him to the position of president of Local 299, a chapter of the Teamsters Union, in 1946. But it was his appointment as chairman of the Central States Drivers' Council in 1940 that truly set him on the path to greatness. Hoffa's reputation as a fierce advocate for workers' rights grew, and he soon caught the attention of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, IBT. In 1952, 1972, he was appointed as the international vice president of the IBT, serving as the deputy to Dave Beck, the then president of the union. But it was in 1957 that Hoffa's true ascent to power began. In October 1957, at the IBT's convention in Miami Beach, Florida, Jimmy Hoffa was voted in as the general president of the union. This marked a turning point not only in his career, but also in the history of labor unions in America. Under Hoffa's leadership, the Teamsters Union experienced unprecedented growth, expanding its reach, influence, and coffers. But with power often comes controversy, and Hoffa's connections to organized crime soon became a topic of discussion. It was an open secret that Hoffa had ties to the Mafia, and these connections would ultimately lead to his downfall. The Mafia saw in Hoffa a valuable ally, someone who could help them exert control over the powerful labor union. In return, they provided Hoffa with the support and resources he needed to solidify his position as the leader of the Teamsters. However, these alliances would prove to be a double-edged sword. Hoffa's involvement with organized crime would come back to haunt him. In 1967, he was convicted of multiple crimes, including attempted bribery and jury tampering. He was sentenced to prison, and his reign as the president of the Teamsters came to an abrupt end. Despite his imprisonment, Hoffa's influence lingered. From behind bars, he continued to exert control over the union, much to the dismay of his adversaries. But his release from prison in 1971 marked a turning point in his life and set the stage for the events that would ultimately lead to his disappearance. July 30th, 1975 started like any other day for Jimmy Hoffa. Little did he know that it would be the last day he would be seen alive. On that fateful day, Hoffa was scheduled to meet with two individuals who would play a significant role in his ultimate disappearance: Anthony Provenzano and Anthony Giacolone, both known figures in the Mafia. The meeting was set to take place at the Machus Red Fox restaurant in Bloomfield Township, Michigan. Hoffa arrived at the restaurant, unaware of the danger that awaited him. He was last seen outside the establishment, waiting for his associates to arrive. As the minutes turned into hours, it became clear that Provenzano and Giacolone were nowhere to be found. Hoffa grew increasingly frustrated, making phone calls to his wife and a friend, expressing his annoyance at the no-shows. But little did he know that this delay would be the last twist in his life story. Witnesses reported seeing Hoffa engaged in conversations with several other men near the restaurant. These interactions would later become the subject of intense speculation and investigation. Who were these men, and what role did they play in Hoffa's disappearance? One eyewitness, a truck driver, claimed to have seen Hoffa getting into a maroon car, possibly a Lincoln or a Mercury Marquis. This would be the last confirmed sighting of Jimmy Hoffa. The car, its occupants, and their intentions remain a mystery to this day. Among the men Hoffa was seen talking to was Charles "Chucky" O'Brien, a close friend of the Hoffa family. O'Brien had borrowed a car that day, a 1975 Mercury Marquis Brougham, which was later identified as the vehicle Hoffa may have entered. The connection between O'Brien and Hoffa's disappearance would become a subject of intense scrutiny. As investigators delved into the events surrounding Hoffa's disappearance, they discovered that O'Brien's fingerprints were found on a 7-Up bottle inside Hoffa's abandoned green Pontiac Granville. Despite this evidence, O'Brien maintained his innocence until he died in 2020, leaving the truth behind his involvement shrouded in uncertainty. The disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa on that summer day in 1975 sent shockwaves through the nation. Despite extensive investigations, no one has been charged in connection with his disappearance, and his body has never been found. The circumstances surrounding his vanishing act continue to be debated, leaving the public hungry for answers. These stories highlight the complex web of power, corruption, and betrayal that exists when these two worlds collide. The aftermath of these assassinations leaves a legacy of unanswered questions and conspiracy theories. For more thought-provoking videos like this, click on the card showing on your screens and I'll be waiting.